Alright, let's look at the Canshift in action and compare it with the stock shift patterns. Right now I'm just in regular automatic and it's already in 4th gear. We're going 40 miles an hour right now. So what I notice with the regular shift without the Canshift active, when I back out of my driveway and I cruise down my street, granted I only go about 20 miles an hour down my street, lots of kids, and I just think it's kind of rude and reckless to even drive the speed limit down my street when there's so many kids and so forth. But anyway, what I notice when I hit drive and I start to go, it makes the 1 to 2 shift almost immediately, and then probably a second later the 2 to 3 shift. And so I'm going, 15 to 20 miles an hour in 3rd gear already. That doesn't shift up to 4th on my street. But then I've noticed when I'm in what I would call normal accelerating circumstances, driving on a road that's say 45 mile an hour limit or higher, and I'm not really getting on it, I'm just, quarter pedal or whatever, it still goes 1 to 2, just boom. And then, the 2 to 3 comes, in my opinion, too soon, and then the 3 to 4 comes way too soon, and then you're basically accelerating in your overdrive gear, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. If I need to accelerate a little more rapidly and it's already in 4th gear, it tends to stay in 4th gear, and then it just slips against the torque converter, so the RPMs jump way up and the torque converter is not locked, and so to me it's very inefficient. I can't possibly imagine that it's better for your gas mileage for a transmission to stay in 4th gear and rev up to 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs, slipping on the torque converter, compared to just downshifting to 3rd or 2nd. I don't know what engineer decided that was a smart thing, but you would never do that in a stick shift, right? When you're driving a stick shift, you see a hill coming and you need to accelerate, you're going to downshift into 3rd or maybe even 2nd, depending on your speed and the steepness of the hill or whatever. But you're never going to leave it in 4th or 5th or 6th gear and push the clutch halfway and floor it. And that makes no sense. You would just be burning up your clutch and your engine be revving as if you were going real fast. So it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, that's where I think the Canshift has the best use for most drivers. Is going to be using your brain to outsmart the computer that thinks that 4th gear is the way to go no matter what speed you're going. And it's interesting, in the owner's manual it talks about turning off overdrive if you're in a situation where it's hunting between 3rd and 4th gear. Well, somehow I've owned 3 Crown Vics and driven them all on the same roads, me driving, so basically the same driving style or whatever. I've never ever once had a situation where it was hunting between 3rd and 4th gears. Never ever happened. It's always gone right into 4th gear and then pretty much stayed in 4th gear even when I think it should downshift. And of course there's a ton of times where I think it should stay in 3rd gear, but it upshifts to 4th gear, and then, like I said, it doesn't want to come out of 4th gear unless I pretty much hit wide open throttle, flooring it. The other thing I've noticed about the regular automatic is, and obviously I don't know how you would ever program this for the computer to understand it or whatever, but if you're approaching a corner, so you're in 4th gear because the car is always in 4th gear, right? And you're slowing down because you want to make a more aggressive corner. It seems to stay in 4th gear through the corner and doesn't want to shift down. And if you're in a manual transmission car, the first thing you would do as you got near the corner is you would probably downshift to second gear. That would be typically what I would shift into if I was going to do an aggressive corner in a stick shift. And then I would start to let the clutch out as I hit the corner so that I'd start getting a little bit of engine braking and then a little bit of acceleration to shift the car's weight from the front to the rear tire so that you have better traction through the turn. Right, because you don't want to brake as you're turning, because the weight of the car shifts to the front, and you will, lose control. The back end can spin out on you. So you want to be accelerating as you're turning. It's kind of a fine art of braking to get your vehicle speed down to a safe level to turn, and then kind of aggressively accelerate to shift the weight of the car. So that's another situation where this can shift can be utilized, because you can be approaching a turn and you can downshift into third and then downshift into second, at some point of the turn, and then hit the gas, and you'll have both engine braking and then acceleration through the turn, something that you don't get when you leave it just in drive. Then I'm about to hit another situation where I think the can shift is more useful, and that's up ahead where I'm driving. There's an incline, and it's not so steep that the car can't make it in fourth gear, because obviously if I leave it in drive, it's going to go up the hill in fourth gear. But what it does is it unlocks the torque converter, and again, it revs up higher than it would rev if it just downshifted to third. And so basically you're just spinning the drive shaft, and the torque converter is letting it spin, and so you're not actually translating that to the rear wheels. Whereas if I can shift, I downshift in the third here, the RPMs are going to stay lower, and I have plenty of power to go up this hill. And also, as I hit the peak of the hill and start going back downhill, it'll give me some engine braking so that I won't be breaking the speed limit. This is a pretty heavily patrolled road at times. It seems like they let it go for a while and people get out of control, and then all of a sudden they start hitting it heavy, and you start seeing a bunch of people ticketed here. It's a 30 zone. People typically go 50 when it's not patrolled very aggressively. So now I'm about to hit a downhill and then a corner. So I'm in the can shift in third. I downshift to second for this turn. These people don't stop, they go. But it just gives better acceleration through the turn. Turn can shift off. Let it do its fourth gear thing. So for somebody like me, that's the best use for the can shift, in my opinion. You're going to have those situations where you want a little bit of control of the transmission, you are entering a turn, or you're going up or down a hill and you want better control. For me, I am not going to be shifting like a manual in the automatic. I'm not going to be at every red light, downshift into one, and so forth. You may like doing that. I get it. If I drove nothing but a stick shift for most of my driving life, and I absolutely loved having that control over the car. And then I got old, and my knee didn't like pushing the clutch so much, and you start getting where you like the convenience of just throwing it in drive and going. And obviously I can still drive a stick shift. I just choose to have the convenience of the automatic and adjust my driving accordingly so it's not as aggressive. It definitely can be more aggressive in a stick shift and do it safely whereas you can't with an automatic, but you can with the Canshift. So that's kind of my thoughts so far, just using the Canshift around town a little bit. Let me know in the comments if you have questions or you want me to test it some other way.